Do not go outside. Avoid social media. Use radio.
What is happening?
That's a scene from the 2018 Netflix hit Bird Box, starring Sandra Bullock. Based on the book of the same name, it sprang from the imagination of author Josh Malerman. Now he's out with the sequel, Mallory. And while horror is the genre of his choice, there's much more to him than just a good scare. Our Michelle Miller caught up with him.
Before any success in print, author Josh Malerman was a rock and roller. His band, The High Strung, found loyal audiences over 2 decades and struck gold with The Luck You Got. But through Malerman's love of music, even his bandmates saw an itch. They encouraged him to scratch.
My artistic life definitely started with writing, kind of like do-it-yourself comic books. In high school, embarrassing emo poems. Then it led to short stories. Then you start thinking, well, if I can do a short story, maybe I could do a novel. Right around then is when my bandmates, they were like, hey, you write. Why don't you write music, write songs?
Those two passions, writing stories and music, would always intertwine, even while playing hundreds of shows a year.
At some point I discovered if you want to do this, if you want to write books, and I did, then you're going to have to do it in weird places. You're going to have to do it before you go on stage at the bar you're at, in the local library there, in the passenger seat of the van while you're touring the country. And I'll tell you, it's not easy writing a horror novel while your bandmates are like listening to the Grateful Dead or something, you know?
Horror, his genre of choice, inspired by classics like Dracula and Alfred Hitchcock thrillers.
He wasn't just prolific, and he wasn't just steady one movie a year, but he got better. Psycho in 1960, he was like 60, 61 years old. And so he's someone I turn to not just for the steadiness of his career, but the fact that you can keep improving until it's over.
From the beginning, Malerman has been prolific too, churning out more than 30 would-be novels.
I was just writing rough draft after rough draft after rough draft. And a friend of mine from high school, he wrote me, he's like, I see online that you're finishing a lot of like novels. I know a guy who represents writers. He opened that door for me. It was almost like a Dickens story where this mysterious benefactor. As long as you stay in motion, you may not end up exactly where you want or visioned yourself, but you will end up somewhere.
Somewhere led him to visualize a scene from Bird Box, his breakthrough book. It was optioned for a movie a full year before it was published, starring Oscar winner Sandra Bullock.
I don't understand where your mind went when you initially came up with this idea.
I was riding home from Chicago to Detroit with some friends. I don't know exactly why, but I had a woman and 2 kids blindfolded trying to navigate a river, trying to flee something.
Do not take your blindfolds off. Do not.
Something's on the shoreline or in the water with them that they can't look at. And that was exciting for me because it almost an inverse horror story, right? Usually what you see is what's like scary, right? These characters are not allowed to look. So all the horror is going to come from mood, from the sound, from what's in their heads.
What are you looking at? What did you see? What is wrong with you? Please stop it!
But just who was preying on the minds of his characters?
I started thinking of the concept of infinity and how a person could go mad if they attempted to fathom infinity, where space ends, where time begins, and how our minds aren't equipped for it, right? So what an interesting and horrifying idea if there was a knock at your front door and you open it and infinity personified was standing there, an entity that you could not comprehend. What would happen to you?
His sequel, Mallory, picks up 12 years after Bird Box and takes his favorite female protagonist on a search for someone she thought she'd lost.
I love Mallory. She's the most fluid, the smoothest, the character I most relate to. I think that if I was in the Bird Box world, I would have behaved exactly as Mallory did.
Never could he have imagined a real-life scenario being played out in the form of COVID-19.
There was page 152. It just resonated in my head. You still live by the blindfold and the blindfold alone. And the first thing that went into my mind was, do you live by the mask or not? The truth is stranger than fiction.
I had this 1 second of mistaking Mallory for reality. I'm hesitant in a sense to drop parallels because, Mallory and Bird Box, these are what I consider the good scare. These are the fun scare, and what's happening right now is heavy.
A film based on Mallory is already in development, hoping to build upon the reach of Bird Box.
I don't even know if Sandra Bullock could have predicted the success of that movie.
Malerman welcomes it all, even a good Hollywood script change.
There's a scene in the movie that is not in the book when Mallory intimates that one of the kids may have to look on the river.
Because if I look, we won't make it.
And that scene wasn't in the book. And I contacted the screenwriter after, and I was like, can I retroactively add that to the novel somehow? Because that's sweet.
So is this the end of the road for Mallory, or will she live on?
I was thinking about it earlier today. I do really love writing in that world. I really do. She's always been more than a friend to me. She's always felt, even maybe more than a sister, more like a twin sister. And so I do really like spending time with Mallory. So to write another one, yeah, maybe.
Maybe?
I haven't seen Bird Box.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
I'm terrified now, but I kind of now want to, too.
It's freaky. Oh, man. Prepare yourself.
And now you're going to have to read Mallory.
Yes, that's right. All right. Sometimes the inspiration to read comes from above.